All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's Node API meeting for 30th September 2022. Before we get started with our usual agenda, does anybody have any announcements that they would like to make? No? All right. So then let's get started. Let me share my screen. All right, so here we have our milestones. First thing is drive towards full coverage. Node add-on tools. Jack, I did take a look just now, like an hour ago, at this TSFN new one.
Yeah.
And I see you made some comments.
Yeah.
Okay, plan was to complete coverage of type thread safe. I think I may have missed some and made a mistake. Okay, yeah. I mean, I might have also made a mistake in trying to look at which ones were missing. But I think these three are the ones that I didn't see.
Yeah, I think I mislabeled some of them because like it's like quite a few arguments, and I think I'm probably missed a few.
Yeah, I think we kind of got in trouble by making so many of them. You know, it's done is done because they were started in the regular thread safe function, and then in order to keep that same API, it was also decided to put them into the type thread safe as well.
Okay.
Then I see you've added this one most recently.
Yeah.
Would you like to talk a little about this one?
Yeah, so I think this one was for testing that when we queue a task onto a thread on the libuv and we cancel it right away, it's gonna throw an error, and this one is essentially for testing that this will actually indeed happen, because this one doesn't really cover that edge case because the gen test thinks it will make it too complex. Yeah.
All right. I guess the build failed as a timeout.
Yeah.
So
I think I actually canceled this workflow for some reason because I think it was running for a while and I wasn't sure if I was taking up too much resources.
Gotcha. There is a I mean, if it was just canceled, then maybe because I think some of the executors do take a while for their tests to, so shouldn't be a problem. I think there is an automatic timeout of 30 minutes, I believe it is. So I think that should be fine. You shouldn't need to really cancel any of them.
Okay. I'll rerun them again, I guess.
Right. And I guess we can take a look at this on our own time and then get back to you on that. Doesn't look like too much.
Yeah.
We can take a look. All right. Anything else for tests?
I think that's it. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So we can close that up. Then we have better coverage of Node API in YouTube. I don't think anything has been done since last week. Last week we basically just outlined some ideas. Another idea that I had was showing how to do debugging of the native module. So attaching, like a debugger inside the IDE and being able to step through both the JavaScript code as well as the native C++ code. I think that would be beneficial. I have seen some blog posts about it from various authors, so I think it is something that would be worthwhile to put into a like a tutorial video as well. Explain how to.
I'm just curious, it's only debugging for Linux, Mac platforms. Do you have like Windows?
I do have access to a Windows machine, but I haven't done it. But I think all the steps would be similar. I think that would be something that I could check out before making any specific video about that.
I'm just curious, like how generally works on the other platforms, because myself, I do debug it regularly, but I kind of on Windows, I pretty much just set like special flags for the process for Node process. Technically, it stops as soon as it starts. So at this point, I'm attaching debugger, do all these breakpoints and stuff, and continue. Similar process for Linux. Just curious.
Yeah, I mean for Mac and probably Linux as well. I mean, it's really easy. I can speak from a Mac perspective, and I use Visual Studio Code, and it's basically just configuring a launch configuration inside VS Code that would start the node executable with the proper argument of your script, and it runs it in LLDB. And then you're able to add your breakpoints and everything inside the IDE. So that's how you would do it for the native side. And then, so that would start the process. And then if you, there should be some way to attach, because I did a quick Google, but I've never done it myself. So it would take some thinking of, or some trial and error of how to run a second debug instance for the JavaScript side, because Visual Studio Code does allow using multiple debugger instances. So to me, it makes logical sense that you should be able to start the node executable for the LLDB debugging. And then if you pass the node and the inspector argument, then you should be able to attach to the node process for the V8 debugging. So it all sort of theoretically makes sense, but I've only done it one at a time, either using LLDB for native or just the built-in node debugger for the JavaScript. But it sounds reasonable that you should be able to do both. As far as how Windows goes, that would be something that I'd have to look into, because I've only done Windows debugging inside of excuse me, actual Visual Studio. But I'm assuming that there's some way to also do it inside of Visual Studio Code, but that's just something that I have to look into.
Okay. Yeah, it would be kind of very useful to have this type of video, especially like you said, if we can show like how to do JavaScript in native code simultaneously. It's
yeah, I think that would be very useful. Does anybody have any other ideas that they would like to jot down?
I don't know, like I'm lately was playing a little bit with C# bindings for Node API. I was thinking like it would be cool to have something like this at some point.
Gotcha.
But I don't know like if it's some mainstream stuff or not. Yeah.
I think, yeah, that would take us a little bit towards the next issue on the milestone, the non-C language bindings. Nick had emailed us to say that he would be missing the meeting, but he did say that he was working a little on this. So if he's here next week, maybe we'll have a little more of an update. All right, and moving on, tracking issues. I don't think that this has been updated. So what we usually do is node add-on API npm here. Weekly downloads 9.1 million. Hopefully one day we'll reach the 10 million milestone, and that will be great. Does look like our last release was 5 months ago. Maybe we should discuss possibly doing a new release. We'll have to see though, like what features have been added and if there's anything that we are explicitly waiting for. I know that there are some pulls, or at least I had one that's still sort of awaiting this removing the unknown array type. If we could get a look at that, because we've had multiple issues come up, this 1066 as well as this 1198. So I think this would be a good thing to actually get published. So if people can take a look at that, that'd be great. Just to recap, basically we removed this unknown array type and defaulted it to the int8 array. So you'll see that in a lot of those changes where the type used to be that unknown, and we set it to that int8 array. And then inside of the constructor, if you're given a value and it's not null pointer, then we'll get the type from using get typed array info, and it goes into the type and the length. So that's just a small little change. And we had discussed this in a couple of meetings that we don't believe that this should affect any existing code. All right, moving on. Enable debug testing for add-ons. Michael's working on this. Don't think there's anything, any new work on that so far. And we have stale issues to discuss. I know I had one that I needed to look at, but let's just start from the bottom. Right, this is the one that we had talked about. We believe that this issue would be fixed if that command line was added, the command line flag that was added as part of this PR. This emit uncaught exception when calling into modules. I believe a flag was added in order to enable this feature. And what we had discussed last week is that the GenderCast would see if using that flag actually solves this problem. And then there was also a sort of a side discussion of enabling module writers to enable these feature flags at runtime themselves. And I guess, yeah, that's what this second bit is for. But I guess we're gonna continue waiting on this part to see if there's any update to that. Anybody have anything to say about this before we move on?
Yeah, just in this context, I want to mention, like we talk about this some runtime flags per module, and I just today updated my pull request with kind of proposal how this runtime flags might look like. So
and this pull request is on core.
Yes, it's about like I have this pull requests for supporting reference types for all value types. And because it's no API changes, but pretty much just internal behavior changes. So it's
does it have the label?
Yeah, it's a second from bottom, like
This ref type one?
Yes.
I thought we were discussing the ability to add these flags at runtime. But this has
Right.
to
But
do
the way, if you remember, originally this PR was about adding new APIs, and then we decided like, let's not do it. And instead, I need to update this definition. But if you look on the file changes, so current idea is that we just simply have some runtime flag, and depending on this runtime flag, we'll just simply say, oh, we're gonna support in now like all value types. But just for the backward compatibility, we still want to have this feature flag. So we see I have introduced a new enum called features, or NAPI feature, and one of them called NAPI feature ref all value types, right? So technically, if this thing is set, pretty much any value type can be a reference type.
Gotcha.
And if it's not set, we it was one of kind of discussions with like we need to introduce these features first before this we can start to use them for other scenarios.
Right.
And the way it works,
the feature is on the environment. Okay.
if you click this Node.api.h file, it actually has always kind of internal kitchen, if you like. So we see the way it works. We define a couple of macros. One of them effectively creates an array of enabled features. This array should be 0 terminated, so we should always have this NAPI feature none, the last one in this array. Again, it's just proposal. And what we do, okay, could you scroll up a little bit? If you look on this structure which we sent during module initialization, we used to have 4 reserved void stars pointers, right? Like what I'm doing actually, I'm taking one of these reserved values to send pointer to this array of features.
I see. Okay, so you're putting the features on the module registration. Okay. Then the question that I have is when you had something that was like has feature. Is this like, does a call into this know what the current module is? Because this is on an environment, and I guess in my mind, there's a difference between the environment and the actual module.
So what happens like in our code, we create a new environment instance per module. So technically, from the Node API point of view, this is not Node environment. It's actually a Node API environment, and we always have one-to-one relationship between them.
I see. Okay. Well, that kind of answers my concern that I had. Okay. So I guess this PR here is kind of twofold. One, where it's adding this, feature registration and acknowledgement, as well as adding the feature for supporting the reference to any values.
Yeah, the point is actually adding feature support on its own may not make sense. We really want to have a working example of this feature. And my previous attempt to do it for fixing get all property names failed because we decided like we just need to fix a bug. We don't need features. So I removed features from there. Like now we have a clear case, and we're not changing the reference APIs, but we just simply saying, okay, if this feature is enabled, then we saying any value can work there.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what is the current state of this?
I just sent it a few minutes ago, and I'm not sure. Did it pass all checks? Oh, wow. Ouch. I was by unit tests. I actually skipped a bunch of. Yeah, because it's draft state.
It's draft, yeah. So I mean, if you think it's ready to go, then I guess you can remove Do you believe it's ready to go?
Not yet. I want to make sure that all unit tests passing. I want to add additional unit test, and I also need to change documentation. So, but yeah.
Okay. Do you believe that the implementation of at least the feature acknowledgement or whatnot, are you happy with that implementation?
I see my happy. I kind of at this point, like if you want to override features to a module, you effectively need to redefine the whole macro, and it works. It's simple, but I don't know. Like I really want to kind of gather your opinion and other developers' opinion if it's something which.
Right. I mean, because what I was going to say is if you're happy with what you have with this, then I can put a comment in here for, people to look at that part of the pull request.
Yeah, please do, because I'm kind of a little bit out of ideas how to make it better. I did some experimentation, but still, like maybe somebody would have a look and say like, oh, why not do this? Something obvious to people.
So I'll say that this PR introduces 2 changes. One is the addition of allowing references
an API ref for all value types.
All values. And 2, the ability for modules to register to request certain feature sets at module registration. As requested some feedback on, I was going to say both of these, because
Yeah,
why not?
Yeah, it's still draft state, but I would definitely kind of appreciate any feedback.
Yes. Okay, that looks good to me. All right. So now going back a couple. So we were at this stale issue and discussing this and those feature sets and everything. So I think that's all right. Anything else to discuss on this one before we move on? All right, moving on. Then there's this one. This will be fixed by that pull request that I have opened up. So nothing really to discuss about that. And then this one here, yes, I remember I have not gotten any work on this one done. But we will remove this stale label. Just for a quick recap, some people are complaining that you should not be able, or they're saying that you cannot release a thread safe function inside the destructor of an object. And that's all that I really remember about this issue. Hopefully I'll have some time to look at it again. Then there was, I think that's it here. Well, there's one more here. Yes, this was the migration to object wrap. And I think we had this left open because you added a C-based example and you were going to work on a C++ version.
Yeah, I didn't do any progress on last week.
All right, no issues. There was another one that I'm going to add to this list because it popped up and I forgot that this was something that I was working on before my vacation. Async progress queue worker signal does not trigger the TSFN. I'm going to add this to the stale list so that we don't lose track of it. It's been a long running issue for a year now. Okay, well, hopefully we can get around to it. Okay, then that's it for stale issues. And we have issues raised in modules. Does anyone have anything that they would like to bring up in particular?
Nope.
Okay, there were, I think, 2 issues open since the last meeting. One was questioning about how the finalizer works, because this person was creating like an object with a finalizer data of this new int, and then they're saying that the finalizer is only called when the program exits. But I did comment a little bit saying that it's ran when the garbage collector decides to run because of whatever internal statistics it has or whatnot. And then I mentioned the exposed GC flag and then the global GC and linked to a test that we have. And hopefully this clears up some of the poster's concerns.
We actually may want to clarify that the current situation that we initiate the whole thing on garbage collector, but we don't run the finalizers on garbage collector. We actually schedule them to be run as a part of its set immediate. So technically it will be next tick in our loop. We always run finalizers in the loop as set immediate.
I see. Okay.
What we currently want to fix, it's one of the flags we want to introduce that to run finalizers as actual part of GC. And the reason was for that behavior that if somebody runs some JavaScript code in this case, so we can't really track all the different JavaScript errors if we run as part of garbage collector. But what we're saying, like in future, we want to say finalizers can't run JavaScript at all. So in this case, we can do it in place. You probably know more about it.
I actually don't know too much about the actual internals of the finalizer. I know you and Legendicast have been sort of diving real deep into those. So it's good that you're here to give this little clarification. Scheduled to run. By the GC run. Okay.
Not tick, but tick. Like.
Oh, yep.
Okay.
All right.
By the not GC, but the tick by. Oh. Okay. Well, but then we what specifically call this set immediate. I don't know. It's probably if developer wants to know.
Okay. The set immediate.
Okay.
Might as well be as concise as possible, right? Okay. All right, that looks good there. And then there's another issue that I think, yes, from the same person, talking about an object wrap memory leak. And I think we had talked about this in the past. There's a while loop here, and basically they're just continuously creating NAP object wraps. And if I believe there was an issue like this, and it was addressed by, or at least somebody had reported a similar issue, and they said that adding, we checked that adding a timeout here, you know, like making this asynchronous and then awaiting on like a next tick or something, so that the kind of talking about the garbage collector and the finalizer and things like that, so that it actually has a chance to run. Does this sound familiar to anyone, or am I making this up?
Yes, it's exactly what we just said before. Like all actual, we call finalizers, we effectively free memory only as a part of set immediate. So if somebody runs a JavaScript loop, effectively not allowing to our kind of Node.js to execute, we need to finish with script first before we can run any finalizers effectively.
Right.
And this whatever you mentioned, like I remember this bug. It's why kind of I started to work on this issue a few months ago already.
Right, because
The recommendation was actually make it async. So in this case, it can we have a chance to run them.
Right, and now I guess is there a difference between when the garbage collector would actually free this, and a difference between that and when the finalizer actually runs? Because if that's running on another set immediate, is there a way for, for V8 to actually clear this memory? Or does it have to do it at the same time as the finalizers are ran on the set immediate tick?
No, I think what they're referring to, like you said, it's wrapper and wrapper. So it means that they do create some native code, and they expect this native code to be freed. And native code is always freed as a part of this calling finalizers. And finalizers be built on set immediate. So VGC does their work, but it's actually our implementation side of Node.js, which makes I don't remember it. So it was, like you said, it was a bug over there, like because I still have this PR opened in the core about this finalizer, but just because Degenkas was actually working on in the same area, I didn't make much progress there.
Right.
I think it's this one. I think it should have a reference to the bug what we discussed before. Oh, yeah, this one probably, yes.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Okay. How can I get? Okay, yes, there.
Right.
Right. They're basically doing the same thing, putting this inside a loop.
It's maybe worth to just link there, and pretty much maybe a developer will have a look.
So this was closed by the bot, but it would actually, it still is an issue. Would your PR solve this memory leak issue? Or not memory leak, but non-freeing issue?
I hope so, but in some sense, I'm actually dependent on another PR from Legendcast to finish. So I'm, in some sense, like I'm stuck.
Right. And that was this one here, right?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Because I technically can implement my change, but it will, in some sense, will be contradict to what he does. Like, and so we need to have a chain. And I believe he faced some issue with some unit tests. So before he finishes this PR, he needs to implement another one. So there is like a queue.
Gotcha. Yep. That makes sense. All right. So I'll just link to these here. So I linked to the issue, and I'll link to these PRs so that we copy the address. We are, as discussed in the above linked issue, if you make your code asynchronous, GC, the finalizers will be ran on another. We'll have a opportunity to run in between your JavaScript execution. All right.
Okay.
So that's that issue. Yep. That. All right. Anything else on this one? Okay. I think it's worthwhile to reopen this one. And we can add it to the stale list because we didn't discuss Legendicast's PR. And I'm not exactly sure what its current state is. So let's just take a quick look. This is a long one. Some test failures. Okay. Yeah, we'll add it to the list and reopen. Still issues. Okay. This will at least give us, remind us to discuss the two PRs.
And latest thinking about this area, like my PR was about introducing new APIs and stuff. And I kind of like this latest thinking in this area that we don't introduce new API, but again, we just will use this new feature flag, which will pretty much say, oh, we'll run finalizers as a part of this GC runs instead of set immediate. But we'll fail if somebody using any JavaScript code there. Because in majority case, I'll say 99% people don't want to run JavaScript in finalizers. They just want to clean up native resources. And we must not make it as painful as today, just because of this one special case somebody wants to explore.
Right. Okay. Yeah, we can discuss that hopefully in the next call if Michael and Legendicast are both on. All right. That is all of the new issues on Node Add-On API. I don't think there's any progress on anything else. This is one that I was working on before my vacation, and I'm still waiting to hear if this person actually solved the problem or just accepted the limitations that they were having. Let's see if there are any issues in Node Core that are new. Let's see here. Nothing really new. Yeah, nothing new here. So we will leave that as is. Then document how to, I guess, the memory leaks one. This is just something that we wanted to add some documentation on because as Michael explained it, we do not unload modules. So if you do load them, it may look as something is a leak because they're not unloaded, but that's just by design. And I think that's what we want to sort of add as documentation. And that's what we have on this issue that was added. So it's sort of talking about this and making it into a better documentation. But it does not look like there was any progress done on that. Okay, then that is it for the milestones. Does anybody else have anything else they would like to discuss before we end the meeting for this week? Nope. All right, then we will catch you guys online and